Hey everyone, Harry here to tell you about a guilty plea by an attorney for the Oath Keepers. And this grows out of the melee of January 6th and the general aftermath of the 2020 presidential election. So Kellye SoRelle is this character's name. You've maybe seen her name pop up in connection with Stewart Rhodes, who, as you probably do know, is the Oath Keepers founder. So she actually dated Rhodes, you may remember, and was a close confidant as Rhodes is doing all his plotting. So she is involved with him, and she was charged with 4 different felonies, 2 having to do with obstruction, and actually the same obstruction statute that the Supreme Court narrowed in the Fisher case in June of this term. So she is pleading to 2 charges, not the obstruction charges. She's pleading guilty to entering and remaining on restricted grounds and seeking to corruptly persuade others to destroy evidence. She is, as I've said, an interesting figure, and she actually was not permitted to go to trial for a time because she actually was found for a period not to be competent. So, I mean, that is a very kind of baseline standard. You know, the basic standard is you are so mentally affected that you can't understand the charges against you. This is something that's more dramatic or pathological, you could say, than an insanity defense, which says at the time you couldn't understand what was right or wrong. This is, as you sit here today, you can't understand the charges, and it's a due process requirement. The government can't punish you unless you can understand what you're being punished for. So she spent several months, did SoRelle, in the Bureau of Prisons custody while they tried to figure out, has she become competent? Sometimes medications will be involved, but for whatever reason, you can't be tried until you're found competent, and she was found to be competent a few months ago, back in February. Okay, so a little bit about her conduct. So, recall the serious charges against Rhodes, seditious conspiracy, that's as serious as we've seen. And recall he's convicted and sentenced to 18 years in prison. Other co-defendants were convicted of other charges, but not sedition with Rhodes. Then 4 in a separate trial were convicted, but seditious conspiracy is really the kind of most inculpatory, kind of breathtaking charge, really. Imagine seditious conspiracy, an agreement to basically bring down the country. Okay, now her role here is she wasn't accused of conspiring to help the seditious conspiracy, but she basically helped out and in particular tried to suppress evidence. So she is this odd figure, as I say, with the Oath Keepers, who is Rhodes's girlfriend, so kind of issues orders on his behalf, but at an important point during Rhodes's 2022 trial, she orders members of the group, and this is an email, to go silent and to get busy deleting evidence of their involvement in the seditious conspiracy. Clam up, in all caps, she writes in messages, do not say a damn thing. Now, Rhodes actually said that it was she at trial who had written those messages, which were the basis for the obstruction charge that you can, it seems, it's down the middle, obstruction, clam up, and do not say a damn thing. That's the charges, of course, as I mentioned, that she is not pleading guilty to. But as part of her plea agreement, which involves a kind of agreed recitation of what happened and what are the facts that make you guilty of the crime as charged, she is admitting to having written out at least one of those. She's not saying she didn't do the other two, but it's enough for the plea agreement that she's saying of those three, messages directing the oath keepers to shut up, suppress evidence, not talk to anybody. In other words, commit obstruction, that she is responsible for at least one of the episodes. So pretty serious crime, and she's pleading to two of them, and the other two are now suspect after the Supreme Court ruling. So this is a pretty strong conviction. Entering remaining, but especially seeking to corruptly persuade others to destroy evidence. And so it's all part of the Stewart Rhodes' story, which is about as serious a story as January 6th brought, and of course, about as serious charges as the United States was able to make stick. Seditious conspiracy, which has a checkered history, and the U.S. would not have gone after it if they didn't think that, A, they could prove it, but more particularly that Rhodes is a very, very bad actor. So his paramour, come deputy, come spokesperson, come announcer for the group, telling and order issuer, is now, after a period of being incompetent, so not even with it enough to stand trial, is copping to participation in that plot. And so that's another important conviction of someone who is not as serious as Rhodes, of course, but nevertheless played an important or certainly distinct role in as chilling and pernicious an episode as January 6th encompassed. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.